Good afternoon, and good morning, and good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Bhavya Lal, and I'm honored to be here. I was born in Mathura and grew up in Delhi till I went to college in the United States at MIT. So it is such a delight for me to be back home, even if it's by video. And just a couple days ago, I heard about PM Modi's announcement that he launched an industry body to supplement the government's efforts towards making India a global leader in space. This is a very exciting development. I was also excited about the Modi-Biden summit in Washington, D.C. earlier this month. There was a meeting of the Quad countries, United States, Australia, Japan, and India, that same day, where the four leaders agreed to consult on rules, norms, guidelines, and principles for ensuring the sustainable use of outer space. So I'm excited all around about growing collaborations between India and the United States. Actually, before I even talk about my topic at hand, which is America's plan to return to the moon sustainably, I wanted to give a shout out to the NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar, or NISAR mission. NISAR brings together two different kinds of radar systems that will measure some of the planet's most complex processes, such as ice sheet collapse and natural hazards such as earthquakes, volcanoes, and landslides. NISAR can assist planners and decision makers with managing both hazards and natural resources in the future. I hope NISAR will launch as planned in 2023 from the Satish Dhawan Center in Sriharikota, and I hope I have a chance to attend the launch. So moving on to my topic at hand, I will talk about how the United States plan to explore the moon in a sustainable way. Just with a little bit of background, what is Artemis? In Greek mythology, Artemis is a twin sister of Apollo and goddess of the moon in Greek mythology. The first time we went to the moon, it was with the Apollo program, so it only makes sense that now his twin sister goes to the moon. And of course, with the next return to the moon, we plan to have the first woman as well as the first person of color going to the moon. So I just am super excited about these developments. And of course, when they land, Artemis astronauts will step foot where no human has ever been before, the moon's south pole. So, this is our next era of space exploration. And I want to say a few words about what it is that the Artemis program is composed of. So what is the architecture? So the first element of the Artemis architecture is SLS. SLS is the only rocket that can send Orion, a space capsule which will have the astronauts, and as well as cargo to the moon on a single mission. Once it's launched, SLS will be the most powerful rocket in the world. As I just said, sitting on top of the SLS is the Orion, the spacecraft that will carry astronauts from lunar orbit and back. The next thing you see actually on the top left of the screen is the Lunar Gateway. Gateway is you could say it's a spaceship or a space station in lunar orbit where astronauts will transfer between Orion and a lander. And on the right, there is a vision of the lander. We are calling it the Human Landing System, or HLS. It's a final mode of transportation that will take astronauts from lunar orbit to the surface and back to orbit. What's of course really cool about HLS, or the Human Lander System, is that NASA plans to procure it commercially, connecting back to the point I made earlier about India venturing much more in commercial space. As you all know, NASA also is procuring rights for both astronauts and cargo from commercial providers such as SpaceX, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and others. So the next piece of what the Artemis architecture is the Artemis Base Camp. Sometimes we call it ABC for fun. It gives the astronauts a place to live and work on the moon. It includes lots of very exciting concepts, a lunar cabin, a rover, a mobile home, and of course lots of science that gets done all over the surface of the moon. And one of the things we are planning to do, especially collaboratively with other countries in the world, is to be looking at what's called in situ resource utilization, or ISRU. ISRU allows, it's just a sort of term of art to be extracting water ice and other materials of interest from the surface of the moon. I guess last thing I would just say, returning to the gateway, it will remain in orbit for more than a decade. And in addition to being on the surface, it's another place where humans can live and work and support long-term science and human exploration on and around the moon. And of course, as a space ship or a space station in lunar orbit, it is, we can move it to where it's best appropriate. So that's the Artemis architecture. Moving on to so sort of how do we want to do all of these things I just talked about? The answer is sustainably, and in a way that's respectful of our commitments to our future generations, right? And these are the principles that translate into what we call Artemis Accords. The Artemis Accords articulate a series of principles to ensure that all activities conducted under the Artemis program are implemented in a manner that fully complies with the Outer Space Treaty of 1967. By the way, that was the year I was born. The Registration Convention, and agreement on the rescue of astronauts, as well as beneficial practices such as the full, free, timely, and public release of scientific data. Our goal is to create a safe and transparent environment which facilitates exploration, science, and commercial activity for all of humanity to enjoy, not just those who are living today, but future generations. So going a little bit deeper into Artemis Accords, as I said, they establish a commitment to ensure transparency, peaceful uses of space, the open and timely sharing of data, and compliance with all our international commitments and obligations. So what are these commitments? The first is peaceful purposes. International cooperation in Artemis is intended not only to bolster space exploration, but to enhance peaceful relationships between nations. The second is transparency. It's a key principle for responsible civil space exploration, and NASA has always taken care to publicly describe its policies and plans. The third is interoperability. Interoperability of systems is critical to ensure safe and robust space exploration. And this is something we have practiced and done well on this International Space Station, the ISS, and we think we can extend it out to deep space as well. The fourth principle is emergency assistance. The idea is to provide emergency assistance to those in need. And this is a cornerstone of any responsible civil space program. The fifth, as I said, is release of scientific data. NASA has always been committed to the timely, full, and open sharing of scientific data. And last but not least, and honestly, this is the one that I am personally most excited about, the ability to extract and utilize resources on the moon, Mars, and asteroids. These sort of living off the land is going to be critical to support safe and sustainable space exploration and development. So these are the principles behind the Artemis Accords. As of today, 12 countries have embraced the Accords. Australia, in alphabetical order, Australia, Brazil, Canada, Italy, Japan, Luxembourg, New Zealand, South Korea, Ukraine, the United Arab Emirates, and the United Kingdom, and of course the United States. The Artemis program will be the largest and the most diverse human spaceflight exploration coalition in history. We don't intend to go it alone. We want to go together. We expect that over the course of the coming months and years, more countries will join the Artemis program and commit to the principles of the Artemis Accords. To be honest, the Accords represent a strong initial start, and there is much more work that remains to be done to establish responsible norms of behavior in space. So I hope we will continue to talk about those and other things. With that, let me end. Let me hand it back to you, Raji. Let's keep talking. Let's go together. The time is now. We have the capability, we have the purpose, we have the charge, we have the responsibility. Thank you for your time.